Colorado's first game is against Georgia Tech.
Yes, sir.
From what you know about Tech, and if from whatever you saw this year, what do you think Colorado needs to do
Oh wow.
to be successful in that game?
Oh wow. this Joker don't miss. In the heat of battle, he don't miss. In the heat of controversy, he don't miss. Well crafted, well stated. And again, I always point this out when this happens to the audience because I can't assume that we're not growing. So that means every Monday we do have somebody who's watching for the first time. So let me point out to those people that you and I do not share these beforehand. We do not discuss them or text each other. The first time we hear them is on the show live. What I will say to that, as it is slated right now, Georgia Tech is week one opponent. Labor Day weekend. It could get moved up to Thursday or Friday, but right now it's that Saturday Labor Day weekend. And if you just go apples to apples, the last time you saw Georgia Tech and the last time you've seen Colorado, we know there's going to be some flux between now and then, but we just got to go off of what we saw last. The challenge is going to be, and why you can't look past the Georgia Tech, nor should you look past any opponent. Georgia Tech does well what we have, for lack of a better description, done poorly at. On defense, if there's any area that we need some improvement as a unit, it's the linebacker unit. And the way Georgia Tech can do some read option stuff, the way they have some three-man motion in the backfield, just the things that they do that stress, discipline, eye discipline from the linebackers, it can certainly present a challenge. So I would imagine this offseason, spring ball, going into summer one, summer two, August, when you can really start preparing for opponents, I think there's going to have to be an emphasis on not only player talent upgrades in that linebacker room, but also the discipline that it takes to play that position. It's almost like the safety behind you. You got to be bored. You got to sit still. You can't overreact and react too soon because the play will just blow up and go right by you. Georgia Tech ain't no week one slouch. You cannot look past that game. You tell me.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes down to Georgia Tech, they're gonna run the ball. They're gonna run the ball, and they're gonna run the ball. They got some really good running backs, Jamal Haynes, cast of guys. What's my some guys? They basically go get the guys from Atlanta. A lot of the guys who have SEC chops, they kind of get left in lingo. Georgia Tech saying now they're saying, "Nah, you stay home," and now the guys are starting to stay home. You look at what they did in the transfer portal. They lost Eric Singleton, who was the number one wide receiver in the portal, and they replaced him with a 100 catch guy. From they literally just reloaded, and I think it's going to be a really good matchup because they're going to try to force their will running the ball. I think that's where you're going to see the defensive line upgrades. That's where you're going to see Jaheim Otis have the biggest impact in a game like Georgia Tech. So to your point, if Colorado wants to be successful, they're going to have to stop the run. That's where we saw Georgia Tech get in trouble last year when the run wasn't working. Now, when they had their run working, and then they go like you look at the game against Georgia, once they got the run working, then they get to play action. Now they got your eyes fooled, and Georgia may have had the best linebacker core of the country, and they confused Georgia. So when you think about the misdirection, like you said, the motion in the backfield, the eye candy, the window dressing, however you want to call it, if the linebackers don't have disciplined eyes, it's going to be a long day for Colorado. So I think getting two senior guys in like French and Hughes, I think in itself. Get two veterans in who you can't fool the same way that you would fool a sophomore or freshman who's just athletic as hell but doesn't have the game experience. So yeah, I would say that for Colorado to be successful, they definitely got to stop the run.
Yeah, and that game experience is key, Deuce, because you got to understand there's a play to be made, but I can't try to force making the play. I have to understand this is going to be a long game. Read my keys, stick to my assignment, and don't overreact trying to be a hero because they're trying to bait you into hero ball. You saw that happen against BYU in the bowl game. When they realized that Colorado was in a situation where they got to blitz because they need this ball back, they as an offensive line started inviting that blitz, and they just went right over the top of it with a screen. Next 20 yards later down the field, And so
Right.
you just have to be careful you're not playing into the hands of somebody what they want you to do. And so I'm looking forward to that matchup, week 1, Georgia Tech, Folsom Field. Here's a fun fact, Dukes.
Okay.
Fun fact, and I'm trying to think if I ever said this publicly before, because this might be breaking, and maybe as we get closer to that game, be able to share more details from a historical perspective. Coach Prime was almost at Georgia Tech.
Man. Okay. I'm gonna double down on that one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
That could have happened. That could have happened. And I'm not talking about something recently. I'm talking about when he was at Jackson State and ended up at Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
It could have very easily. So much so, Deuce, I can show you a pregame show logo that I got made with a yellow jacket.
Man.
That's how real it was.
So there was a top player in the class last year. I mean, top 5 player in the class, whose father told me that if Coach Prime would have got the job at Tech, that's where they would have went. Now, how was he privy to that information? I have no idea. But I never came and asked you. I never went to ask Coach. I ain't do none of that.
Yeah.
But this guy, he 1000% said that Coach Prime was close. And this kid, now, I can see him being recruited for a long time because this guy is a top 5 kid in the class last year, number 1 in his position. And so I heard a couple other schools too. But I tell you what, man, it's just amazing how God puts people where they're supposed to be, ain't it? Especially when they listen. Like, because man, who would have thought Colorado would be in a position that Colorado is in now? 2 years ago, Colorado was an afterthought.
Yeah.
Nobody in their right mind. We're talking about a real live 1-11 Power 4 team.
Yeah.
Not a Vanderbilt.
No, what shouldn't happen.
Yeah, man. Man,
I gotta tell you this, Dukes, that when Coach Prime told me the Colorado decision and told him where it was God led, and I told him jokingly but serious because I have seen this guy in Jackson State push back practice an hour just so he can go from being 58 degrees to 63 degrees in the morning. So I know he don't play the cold. And to see him have an opportunity to be in Atlanta, and you know what he meant to Atlanta and his career meant to the city, to come to Colorado in a 1-11 program in the freezing temperature, I told him, I said, "Oh, you ain't got to sell it to me. I know that's God led. Because can't none but God do that. That's some power."